there, wig lover. This is Heather from CysterWigs.com and welcome to this Monday's AMA session. People always ask me how I do my makeup, what kind of lipstick I'm using. Feel free to leave a comment and let me know that this is content that you like. Make sure you like it as well. If you like it and you comment, I'll be sure to keep them coming. I just want to make sure that the content on this channel is stuff you want to watch, as opposed to me just kind of like guessing and then making stuff and then you guys going, oh, why'd you do that? I got a really nice little setup going on with two cameras. So hopefully that will help me sort of show you what I'm doing in the greatest detail. I wanted to show you my entire routine from start to finish. I do a lot whenever I do full glam makeup. So I don't always wear makeup in my videos, but when I do, I wear makeup, like I go hardcore. And I'll tell you what all these things are as I'm using them, and I will also put that information in the description for this video in case you want to know. But just to give you a heads up, this is not a cheap makeup routine. This is not one of those kinds of situations at all. This is full glam, studio quality makeup. It's not cheap at all, and it's definitely not something I would recommend for daily wear because it takes a really long time to apply all this makeup, and it's expensive. First thing I do usually is pluck my eyebrows, and that's because I love my eyebrows. I think they have a really great sort of natural shape, and I know that I'm very fortunate that they kind of grow in sort of full, but they get a little bushy after a while, so we're gonna pluck. So the one brow is done now. I try not to over pluck because I feel like I look best with, you know, a slightly fuller brow. Not like, you know, the dad from American Pie, you know, Eugene Levy full, but, you know, a little bit fuller. And a little side note, I also get my brows professionally waxed about once a month. All right. Time to take off the scary mask thing. I'm just gonna rub this into my face a little bit, real gently. You don't have to apply pressure at all, just sort of get it in there. So while I wait for my skin to finish soaking up the rest of this goop, I'm going to do a couple more prep things. This is MAC Lip Scrubtious. So this stuff's really great for helping sort of exfoliate your lips really gently, and it tastes nice. Gonna go ahead and wipe the rest of this off. The next thing I'm gonna do, since my lips are already a little bit primed for it, gonna apply some of Too Faced Lip Injection Extreme. I find that using a lip plumper, especially because I have such small lips, helps me apply my lipstick. I like to put a little extra right in the corner. My lips are naturally a little bit on the downturn side, so by putting a little bit of emphasis on the corners, it sort of helps prevent it from looking like I'm snarling when I don't intend to. The next thing I'm gonna do is yet another prep piece, and this is already getting kind of dry. This was recommended to me by my friend Trish, so shout out to Trish. This is a great product. This is MAC Fast Response Eye Cream. And pat it under your eyes a little bit. All right, now time to wipe this stuff off my lips. I always like to do my eye makeup first, so that way if I get a bunch of sparkles or whatever all over my face, I can just kind of wash it off. I always like to do a little bit of something under my eyes. So what I'm gonna use is actually not a concealer at all. It's a highlighter. This is Dermablend Glow Creator. By the way, I always recommend people who, especially people who are acne prone, wash your brushes after every use. So these are all clean, ready to go brushes. And this is just a kind of generic Ulta makeup brush. This is Real Techniques, and it's just like a concealer brush. save the good MAC concealer brush for when I do the rest of my face. So I'm just gonna put a little bit on the brush. And this stuff I don't mind getting in the creases, so I get it all the way up there. It might seem weird to put highlighter on under here, but I much prefer doing that and sort of distracting people from the creases under my eyes than putting a ton of concealer under there, because no matter how well you bake it, if you put a ton of concealer under super round eyes, you're gonna end up with a lot of makeup in those creases, and that's not exactly cute. And I'm just gonna go ahead and use the excess under my cheek. And up in here, because chances are we're gonna have to wash some of this off anyway after we apply the eye makeup. And I'll get this inside corner of my eye while I'm at it too. I mean, this is gonna look really weird up until the point where it's done, because it's all about building up in this case, because I mean, it's studio makeup. It has to withstand a lot of heat, and it has to not run, or at least not run a lot, under those lamps for an extended period of time. My photo shoots and my video shoots tend to go on for about 7-8 hours at a pop. I mean, even though the videos are short, it takes a lot of work to make them. Next up, I'm gonna apply some eyeshadow primer. This is MAC Prep and Prime 24-Hour Extend Eye Base. It goes on sort of like a powder creme, you know what I mean? Like it goes on like a cream and it dries like a powder. I love that. I'm gonna be using 4 different brushes for my eyeshadow. The MAC 239 brush to apply the base color to the bottom part of my lid. The MAC 275 brush for the crease. Really good brush for that, because you don't want to use something that's got a lot of compact bristles for the crease, especially if you plan to build. And that building that you do with the eyeshadow gives it a lot of depth and dimension, so I prefer to do that rather than just a line and then you blur it, you know? This brush, the MAC 219, for just a little bit in the corners here. This is kind of a compact, bristly sort of brush. So it's really good for getting a lot of pigment in a really concentrated area. Great for that edge there. And then to blur and blend it, I'm gonna be using the MAC 221 brush, which is very loose, very nice. I use a whole bunch of different shadow palettes, but in this case, I'm gonna be using kind of a cheap shadow palette. I really like the colors here, and I think they go on pretty well. This is the Citi Mini Palette from Maybelline. My eyes are very green, and I like to play them up with these violet shades because they're sort of a contrasting color, kind of brings out the green and hazels a little bit. Top color up here. Take a little bit on this brush and put it under my eyes. Trying to avoid this big crease here at the bottom. Just up against that lash line a little bit. Because I am going to line my water line, so it's nice to have a little bit of a matte contrast. Right, so now I'm gonna use this MAC 275 brush. I'm gonna use the colors in this palette to sort of build in the crease here a little bit. So I'm gonna start with the color here in the upper corner because it's the lightest of the shimmery shades. And I'm starting right here above where my pupil sits, because I have very round eyes. I do not want to do it too much in the corners here. I want to emphasize that crease right here, because by doing that, it gives my eye a slightly more almond-shaped appearance. I know, this looks really extreme, but it won't look like that after we're done blending it all. I'm gonna do a little bit of blending right now with the MAC 221 brush that I mentioned earlier. Okay, rub it off on my hand a little bit in between. Now I'm gonna apply my final shadow shade. This is one of my favorites. It's really, really easy to smudge everywhere and get glitter all over your face though. That's the only bad part about this one. This one is Dazzle Show, which is a MAC color. It is really, really sparkly. Has a lot of mica in it and all kinds of different color glitter. So when you first see it at MAC, you might be like, what are you doing? But I mean, it is a really cool kind of accent color. Again, this is the 219 brush, and I'm basically just taking it here in the outer corners and down. You want to be really careful with this brush because it can put a lot of pigment in a single location. It brushes for Ulta. The one that's like made to airbrush look concealer. I'm actually going to use that on the outer corner of my eye makeup. Awesome. Before I do my eyeliner, I'm going to do my brows. So this is Benefit's Foolproof Brow Powder. And this is color 3. I also use color 5 whenever I know I'm going to be doing a lot of dark colors, but color 3 is usually a safe bet when you don't know if you're going to go blonde, brunette, red, or whatever. This is also the Benefit standalone spoolie. This is a great spoolie and brow brush. I highly recommend using it over the spongy applicator in this brow powder or basically any other applicator. This is basically the world's most perfect spoolie. I love it. And this brow powder is actually really great too because it shows you where to apply it. So you apply the lighter shade here and then you apply the darker shade in your arch. I'm gonna apply this lighter color and I'm gonna start from the arch and again work my way down towards the front. You don't want to start at the front and then move this way because you always look like you'll have this weird line here. So even though it feels more natural because the hair's going in that direction, if you draw them in that way, you're gonna end up with a really dark area here where the brows are probably kind of sparse to begin with, so it'll be a little more obvious. And that's kind of what we're trying to avoid. This is more like a classic pinup brow as opposed to like an ombre brow or any kind of weird trendy brow. I am very allergic to trends. I sort of hate them. I want to look like me. You know, I think of like Iris Epfel. She's kind of like my fashion hero because she proves that you don't have to be a certain age to pull off certain looks or colors or silhouettes. You basically just do you and do it like a rock star, like you don't care what other people think, and then other people tend to think that's pretty cool. Now I'm gonna brush it into there and blend it a little bit with this spoolie. Time for eyeliner. I love the way liquid liners look, and gel liners too, but they take me a long time to apply because I have carpal tunnel in both my hands from years and years of waitressing through college. So my preference is to use a pencil. This is the Modern Twist Kajal Liner. It's a eyeliner in the color Cat's Meow. This stuff is great, especially if you're trying to get like a smoky eye effect. And I always keep a baggie of these pointed cosmetics Q-tips. They're a lifesaver. So I'm just gonna use that to kind of even out any rough patches, any areas where I colored outside the lines. And I try to get this right up on that lash line because we're gonna be putting lashes on. Get that waterline here. This is the part I really like to take my time with because the eyes are basically the focal point of this entire look. Like even the lip's gonna be kind of nude. So now that we've got the basic eyeliner on, I'm gonna do one little extra touch. This is a L'Oreal product called Voluminous Liner Noir. It is a black liquid pen. I'm only gonna use this on the outside edge to make it a little bit more dramatic. And I'm only doing it right up against the lash line. That's sort of my liquid liner cheat, because I love the way that liquid liner looks, but it's really hard for me to work with exclusively just because I have the carpal tunnel. So I use it as an effect on top of my other liner. Take a moment or two and let that dry. Alrighty, so the next step is we're gonna put some lashes on. You know, make sure that they'll actually fit properly on you. And if not, don't be afraid to cut them. Trim them up. So now I'm gonna wait for the lashes to dry before I muck around with them too much. In the meantime, I'm gonna apply primer to the rest of my face. All that extra androgen floating around in the system of anybody with PCOS tends to give us the appearance of kind of big pores. Now I'm gonna go ahead and set my brows. This is 24-hour brow setter from Benefit. So the next thing I'm gonna do is apply some concealer. I'm just gonna put a little bit on my hand. We're also gonna be using this for the contouring in a little bit. This is a beauty mark, so I'm not gonna do anything with that. I don't use this matte concealer under my eyes. I think it's a little bit too opaque. So I'll show you what I use there in just a second. But this is great for helping to even out the skin, especially in any areas of discoloration or in that T-zone area. I like to start the highlighting. I don't like using the sparkly highlighter for highlighting. I use concealer underneath my makeup most of the time. Aside from right underneath here, I might put a little bit of that glow creator on. But I mean, I'm not in my 20s. I don't want to look like I have super dewy skin because that just looks kind of weird to me. It helps add a little bit of depth to your features, especially when you're underneath a lot of lighting like I am. it's time for just a little bit more of this Glow Creator stuff. Next thing I like to do is my lip liner, because I actually kind of want to let it sit for a little bit before I put the rest of the lip makeup on. I like that to be kind of buildable too. So the foundation I'm going to use is Makeup Forever. Take this bad boy. But this is like a blurring brush. I'm gonna use this in lieu of a sponge. I love this. It feels so nice on your face, and I think it does a beautiful job. And don't forget your neck. Starting to look like skin again, isn't it? All right, so now that that is more or less done, I'm gonna grab my contouring kit. This is a really small little contouring kit, but it's great. This is from Tarte, and this is the Hamptons Weekender kit. Colors in it. I like to use the Summer House. It's kind of like this middle one that's sort of a pretty like rose color. This is the brush I used at the very beginning for under my eyes with the highlighter. I have washed it, it has dried, and so I'm gonna use it for my contouring. I don't like to go too crazy with the contouring, but it does help you add a little bit of definition to your face, and it keeps you from looking like a ghost. Now, I'm not drawing any new lines anywhere on my face. I'm literally just following what's already there and emphasizing it. Draw a little triangle here. Do right up on the hairline here. And then from here to the arch. Temple to arch. Doesn't have to be perfect. You're gonna smudge the living bejesus out of it in a second. And then down to the cheek. This also helps draw attention to the front part of your face, so that way your eyes really pop. And then right here on my nose a little bit, helps it look a little bit more petite, and also helps define it a little bit better for the cameras. My blurring brush. Make sure everything's really nice and soft. You want no harsh lines. This is a classic pinup look. The makeup makes a huge difference, doesn't it? With all this lighting on, I mean, my face is starting to really become more noticeable as I keep applying the makeup. Whereas at the beginning of the video, I probably looked like a ghost, like really washed out. So that's a really good indication of why we need to apply it so heavily whenever we do it on camera like this, because otherwise you're just gonna look washed out. Now I'm gonna apply a little bit of additional concealer under my eyes, but very, very carefully. And I'm only gonna put a little bit on. This is the same 190 brush from MAC we used earlier for our concealer. And I'm only tracing this really dark area right here. I'm not gonna go all the way up. This is a small area for that blurring brush, so I'm just gonna use a foundation brush that I have and use that to kind of blend this in a little bit. You can see it doesn't have really compact bristles at all. It's just a fluffy little foundation brush. But wait, there's more, right? I have to curl my lashes and then I'm gonna apply a little bit of mascara. So we're gonna curl these. Good stuff. Now I'm gonna apply a little bit of Voluminous Lash Paradise Waterproof Mascara. All right, home stretch. The face is starting to look like a face, so now we're gonna finish her up. So I like to use lipstick as blusher. I do. It's nice and creamy. It stays in place really well. I've tried all sorts of things, stains, powders, creams. I still like this stuff the best. One of my favorite lipsticks, period, but it also looks really nice on my cheeks. Now I'm going to set this with a little bit of powder. This is the MAC Studio Fix. This is technically a foundation, but it's a powder foundation in the color NW15. You don't need a ton of this stuff. For the lipstick, finally at last, I used two different colors on top of this pencil. This is NARS Sex Machine. It's one of my favorite lipstick colors. It's a crayon, it's fantastic. And final touch, this is Nude Deli. It's another matte. It's kind of got a sponge applicator like this. Warms up the other colors just a little bit while still keeping it nice and nude. Now the final step for all of this is we're gonna use some Urban Decay All Nighter Setting Spray. And you're just gonna spray up like a cross, sort of, like that. And then you're gonna wanna go Union Jack, like an X, okay? So just think like the British Union Jack, and that's the formation you want. And you wanna hold this, and you can see it better in the side shot, you wanna hold it out like this. You don't wanna hold it up to your face, because then your makeup will run. Hold it out, and then do that. And try not to breathe it in too much, because it's really easy to do that. And now we just let it dry. All right, so that's it. That was this makeup routine. And you know, the whole effect of it is to, you know, make it look not like you've got a ton of makeup on, but you know, just a little bit more glam than normal. But my other goal is, because I'm gonna be under hot lights all day, and because I, you know, am going to be putting wigs on and off at furious pace, I don't want the makeup to run, I don't want it to get on the hair, and I want my face to be front and center during all the videos. So that's what this routine and all the contouring and all that good stuff hopefully provide. If you have any questions that you would like us to address in another installment of our Ask Me Anything series, please be sure to leave them in the comments section of this video, or any of our AMA videos really, and that's why this video came along. So until next time, have a great night everybody, and I look forward to seeing you in another AMA. Bye-bye!